Good afternoon and welcome to PlayOnSports.com's live coverage of the CIF San Francisco section's AAA dance and cheer competition. The Spirit Squad performing today at Burton High School. I'm Jeff Kurtz alongside TJ Rivera, our producer today, Lee Craner, video provided by Hans Webb. This is our first year covering the San Francisco City Section Cheerleading Championships, though it's been running for a while. And TJ, we've been walking around talking to all the athletes who are getting ready to perform here today. There is, I would anticipate, there's always a buzz at these kind of events, but in particular, given that there's a championship on the line in three different styles of cheering, there's an even higher buzz, I would say, today in the gym here at Burton High School.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you anticipate that we will see from these different schools today? I mean, you as a cheerleader at San Francisco State, having cheered at Concord High School in the East Bay, and having performed in 16 cheerleading competitions over the course of your life. What are the feelings like before you perform at an event like this?
Competitions are my favorite. It's the best feeling in the world walking on stage and seeing everyone like looking at you and anticipating what you're going to put on the floor, and walking off that stage knowing that you did your best is the best feeling in the world.
And what is it before the event? There's the getting there, but then there's the practice, the buzz, all the hours you put in. I mean, we often see the cheerleaders at the football games we're covering, at the basketball games we're covering. We might say, wow, that was a really, the cheerleaders on the sideline getting the crowd all fired up for this big defensive stand. But usually we don't talk about what do the cheerleaders have to do between the end of the school year and the fall to get ready for football, for basketball, for competitions like this. What is involved preparation-wise for cheerleading? There
are many, many hours of practicing, starting at the lower level stunts and working your way up and seeing just how hard you can get your stunts to be with being legal and not dropping any. And it's a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, but it really pays off. It's so much fun to get together with your team and just practice and just master those stunts, and it's a great feeling.
And there's camps over the course of the summertime that these girls have attended. There are practices. Some teams we're going to see today, folks, are in their first year of cheerleading at their school. Others for a while, but they're in their first 6 months of cheering at all in their life, even though the program has been well established at their high school. So we're going to see a real mix of veteran cheerleaders all the way up at the high school level, and people who are out there, kids who are out there for their first section competition in their first year of cheerleading.
Now, let's go ahead and meet our teams.
Really nice to see the range of veterans and new ones.
And right now we're going to announce, or the UCA is going to announce the teams participating, and heading out onto the floor is Balboa High School. So we're going to be doing the introductions first here. We are live at Burton High School in San Francisco, California, just a little bit south of downtown. And Balboa being introduced. While that's taking place, our PA announcer today is Shauna Brewer, who competed at Folsom High School. Folsom is actually going to have their cheerleaders on the football field tonight against De La Salle up at Sacramento State University. And Shauna, who's doing the PA for us this evening, moved on to Sacramento State and cheered there for 3 years and is now a member of UCA, which stands for the Universal Cheerleading Association. Our judges today are Evan Pearson, who's been on staff at UCA for the last 6 years, Deja Joe, who has spent 15 years cheering and tumbling in her life and attended Merced High School and then went to Sacramento State, and Carissa Garlick, who competed for 6 years at the NorCal Elite All-Star level and has been on the UCA staff for 1 year. And in order to qualify for being a judge, and what you need to do is you need to be an instructor with the Universal Cheerleading Association. Obviously have put in the work over years, the dedication, TJ, to be able to then go out and instruct athletes at the high school and the college level on all the different tumbling and cheer routines that they need to have when they go into their school season. Right now, after Balboa is being introduced, we are seeing Burton come onto the floor in the teal uniforms. This has got to be really exciting for these kids as well. I mean, one of the things is when you're playing football, when you're playing basketball, you don't necessarily have to smile. Your style and your grace isn't necessarily the key as long as you're getting in the end zone or getting the ball in the basket. But here, not only are you doing an athletic routine, but you also can't be doing an athletic routine while frowning.
Exactly.
how do you do that? I mean, if I was just thinking for myself, if I was trying to play basketball and all the time I had to keep a smile on my face while I'm cutting and dribbling and all that, that'd be very difficult to do. How do you train yourself to maintain what has to be a very up vibe while at the same time performing a tumbling routine?
Yeah. As I've always said, and I've had coaches say, perfect practice makes perfect. And so at practice, as long as you're smiling or at least having some type of not dead face emotion, it helps a lot. And when you get on the floor and you're feeling their vibe, their excitement, it makes you excited, and it just brings a smile to my face.
And the adrenaline gets pumping. And, the other thing, too, from cheerleading, TJ, and you maybe have some insight into this, you have to maintain that positive atmosphere and that positive engagement with the crowd, whether you're in a cheerleading competition or you got a bunch of parents and students sitting in the bleachers and you're down 28-0 in the third quarter of a football game, but yet you've got to keep it up, and you can't just say, yep, we're down, there's no way we're going to win this. You still have to say, hey, let's go defense. I mean, how do you maintain that when the crowd isn't exactly following your lead?
I don't like seeing the crowd down, so I'm always trying to be even more energetic when we're losing, because then that way the crowd gets energetic and it pumps up the team, and then they start doing better, and it makes an overall better atmosphere.
Well, let's take a look at the different types of performances we're going to see here today. There are 3 categories, and we're going to be starting with the stunt competition. There'll be 4 schools involved, as right now Lincoln High School being introduced after a moment ago, after Balboa and Burton were announced. International Studies Academy, ISA, the Cobras were just introduced, Lincoln Mustangs, and next will be the Lowell Cardinals. We'll see the stunt competition first. There'll be 4 schools involved in that: Balboa, Lincoln, Burton, and Lowell. Then we'll move on to the cheerleading competition. Balboa, Washington, Marshall, and Lincoln will be involved in that. And then finally we'll finish with the dance competition. And 7 schools will be doing the dance competition: Mission, Lowell, Lincoln, ISA, Washington, Balboa, and Wallenberg. So Wallenberg actually has to sit around from the start of this thing all the way through. They warmed up around 1:30, and then sometime around 3:30, 2 hours later, they're finally going to get a chance to perform. So that's a lot of sitting and waiting, and muscles can get a little cold.
A little bit cold, yes, definitely.
As Lowell being introduced right now. So as we look at the rules, first let's look at stunt and the stunt competition. The routine can't exceed 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but what else should the audience be looking for, TJ, as we're looking at the stunt competition in particular, the first one we're going to see in the afternoon?
The stunt specifically includes jumps and stunts and pyramids and chants and cheers and any type of tumbling, which the regular cheer doesn't do tumbling or pyramids. And so these will have a lot more stunts and harder routines. The judges will be looking for originality in choreography and difficulty and originality in partner stunts and the execution of them, like how well you can recover. And they'll be looking for different techniques, like how sharp you are, how good your jumps are, how loud you can be. The louder you are, the more points you get. And then showmanship, you have to make eye contact and facials and keep up your enthusiasm. And if you mess up, you make it look like you didn't do anything wrong. You did it right and everybody else did it wrong.
You nailed the landing.
Yep, exactly.
All stunts must comply with the National Federation of High School rules. The music in the stunt routines can't exceed 1 minute and 30 seconds of the 2 minute and 30-second routine. And also the judges have to be able to hear the teams during the cheer portion of the competition. So if the crowd really gets into it, you got to be louder than the crowd.
Yep, that's how it goes. And usually the crowd will even help you out sometimes, which is always nice.
And certainly boost you up, as Wallenberg being announced right now. And then the last team that will be introduced here today are the Washington Eagles. And Washington is led by their head coach, Larry Chan and Aaron Lynch. But they said, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, as Washington's coming out right now in the red uniforms, they are very self-driven. They did all their own choreography. They've put it all together themselves. Pretty much the coaches say we manage the eligibility, and then we just make sure we're there when they are, so there's some supervision, and we let them do it, and they generate it all themselves. So we'll have a lot of interesting stories to tell about the different teams here today. Meanwhile, as we look at the stunt competition, 15 points for the 15 points for the choreography, 25 points for partner stunts and pyramids. Technique and skills will give you 30 points. And then showmanship, 30 points. And then after that, the judges will tally it, but we won't know the results of the stunt competition till we're complete with stunt, cheer, and dance. So all those will be compiled. The judges will tally it, and then at the end, we will hear the announcement as to who has won the stunt, the cheer, and the dance competition. So we'll keep you on the edge of your seat as we wait for those results. So as we look at stunt, returning champion from last year is Lowell. They won it with a 78.7 score. Lincoln was second last year with 63, Balboa 53.3. Lowell has won 3 of the last 4 years in the Spirit Squad competition, with Balboa winning it in 2010 to the 2010 school year. Balboa, a very strong program. They actually swept in 2010. Last year, Lowell won the stunt, Lincoln won the cheer, and Wallenberg, who's finishing last today as the last competitor in the dance, won the dance competition last season. Well, we're about set and ready to go here from Burton High School.
Lincoln is on deck. So first up in our stunt division, please give it up for Balboa High School.
And here goes Balboa High School. Andrea Landry, Ashley Nash, Ashley O'Brien, Janet Campos, Jennifer Nguyen, Joanne Kwong, Karen Cruz, Natalia De La Rosa, Nidia Prudencio, Sabrina Glasgow, Cheyenne Anderson, Tiana Sigua, and Zena Galvez are on the team. Janet Campos and Cheyenne Anderson are the captains. Well, that routine started out with a little bit of attitude, dealt with a music glitch in the middle, but Balboa finished really strongly at the end of that routine.
All right, let's go ahead and introduce our first judge for today.
Your thoughts on that, TJ, and what you just saw?
I saw really nice transitions and great back roll pyramid into extension. Looked super clean and nice. They had a little glitch, as you said, with their music in the second half, and they recovered very nicely. They stood there and waited until their right music came on and then rocked it after that.
Well, and the judges must take that into account a little bit, right? I mean, you've got a bit of a routine and some momentum going, and then all of a sudden you have to stop, then restart, and you finish stronger after the stopping part that really was of no fault of the girls out on the floor.
Exactly.
Farmers Insurance is a proud sponsor of the
Well, your thoughts on a potential score for Balboa on their first attempt here in the stunt competition with Lincoln on deck.
Let's see, with all of their choreography and stunts, and I would say it's probably,
I know we're ballparking here because
yeah, definitely.
the judges are going to have the actual total, and we're using our eye to determine what we think the score would be, but somewhere in the neighborhood of what, in your sense? 53.3 last year for Balboa.
Yeah, I would say about in that same range, around the 50s. They did very nicely.
All right, well, Lincoln is on deck. They've all actually already qualified for nationals. And so they are led by their head coach, as Rocio Ramirez is the head coach for Balboa. She's been there for 12 years. Meanwhile, for Lincoln, they're led by head coach Sue Kenny and sisters Adela and Bertha Lee. So that is the coaching staff for Lincoln High School, the Mustangs. And they, as Coach Kenny was telling us, are kind of the UN of cheerleading, the United Nations of cheerleading. 7 to 8 different ethnicities and nationalities represented on the Lincoln Mustang squad. Albina Prodich is one of the captains. Jennifer Chan, another. Lillian Hua is the third captain. Rounding out the squad, Amber Sevilla, Ashley Isidro, Cassandra Wong, Classy Bush, Connie Chow, Erin Moody, Hanya Howden, Jessica Bautista, Caitlin Lee, Kelsey Liu, Keisha Mitchell, Kiersey Ryan, Natalie Petrie, Raymond Nostratus, Shalia Bishop, and Shamaria Roan Chilton. So it is a big squad for Lincoln, and they are performing today. Balboa is performing in all 3 competitions. Lincoln is also performing in all 3 competitions today. Is there a means, do you pace yourself at all when you're in all 3 competitions, or is it pretty much we've got 2 minutes and 30 seconds and each one of these things got to go all out for that, 150 seconds of time, and then we could take a break until our next routine?
Yeah, you just got to lay it all out on the floor each time. That way they're all even and do your best each time.
Well, Lincoln will cheer last in the cheer competition, which is coming up next. So they'll actually have a little bit of a break to rest and recuperate. But what are the coaches talking to the teams about between events, TJ? Because, Balboa performs in the stunt. They come back and they actually lead off for the cheer competition as well.
Oh, wow.
What adjustments do you make, or because each routine is so different, do you just really, okay, we finished the stunt, back of your mind, now we focus on the cheerleading?
Definitely with the cheer and dance, coaches generally look at the cheer section of the stunt routine and just work on what was wrong and just let them know and just tell them how good they did and just get them pumped up for the next routine.
So some adjustments are made from one to the next, and so I'm sure Balboa and Coach Ramirez will take a look at that and make some adjustments as well. Meanwhile, is there any value to going first versus last in the stunt competition?
Generally, going first, you get it out of the way, and it's the first thing that the judges see, and then going last is generally what the judges see last, so it's what's in their mind. It all depends on
what kind of impression you set.
Yep.
Well, the Lincoln Mustangs up next. Let's take a look at what they've got for us. an impressive performance by the Lincoln Mustangs. I got to tell you, if the real Abraham Lincoln had that going every morning in his presidency, it certainly would have boistered his spirits on a daily basis. I'll tell you that much. That was a fantastic routine. What did you see there that you liked?
It was definitely full of many great stunts. When we talked to the coach earlier, they said that their stunts are unique, and I definitely agree. They had 2 different pyramids, one being a one-man with their boy on the team, the ball-up extension, pretty impressive, and then they had their ball-up 2 lip, which was, again, very impressive, very hard stunt to get. They had 3 heel stretches, which is great, and they had their cheer, which was a very good use of stunts and signs, and they all had such a great attitude and were very clean, and their tumbling was great to watch. It was very visual, and they used a great use of the floor.
Well, and the crowd participation piece was fantastic, and a nice little kick that they threw in there. The enthusiasm, I thought, was amazing. I mean, I was pretty fired up just sitting here watching them. They did a good job getting the audience involved.
They definitely did. Heard lots of cheering in the audience along with them.
Lincoln finished second last year in the stunt competition, but boy, that was a strong routine. They're going to be really tough to beat. Now we will get a look at Burton. Burton heading out onto the floor, led by head coach Victoria Traverso, Angelica Completo, Angelica Grover, Ariane Pangon, Dexter C., Elaine Monzano, Goyette Williams, Janet Wong, John Zhuang, Kashira Caldwell, Luz Torres, Paula Gonzalez, Samantha Hall, Sierra Hawkins, Trisha Diaz, and Yanis Reyna. Reyna is the captain on the squad, and so this is a Burton team with Coach Traverso saying we've got a lot of young kids new to cheerleading. In fact, only 2 returners on this team. Everybody else in their first 6 months, starting with camp back in June and July, their first 6 months of cheerleading in their entire life.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice to see how far they've come in 6 months.
Well, Coach Traverso telling us beforehand, TJ, that her goal here is she told her team, look, don't compare yourself with the other teams. That's not what the point is here for us. The point here for us is compare ourselves with ourselves. Are we giving our best effort? Are we going 100%? Are we doing everything we know to do? At the end of that, if you can say yes to those questions, then we have done the right performance for us here today. And so that is the goal of Burton here. Burton, this is the only event that they're performing in as well. So this is it for them. They're doing the stunt competition. That's all they had time to put it together as far as the routine goes, given they had so many new athletes on the squad. So this is the one and only for the Burton Pumas.
Yep, got to lay it all out on the line here.
And following a very strong Lincoln performance, Lincoln, I have to say, has probably got a score better than 63 from last year, I would think.
That's what I would say.
And you are the expert. The Burton Pumas firing themselves up. I'll tell you what, with that Lincoln performance, you know it's going well because they winked at the judges at the very end. That's how you know things are going well in your favor. Here comes Burton. Well, if that's Burton's only performance of the day, that's a good one.
Very good one.
Wow.
Lots of energy.
Well, you couldn't tell that almost every single one of those kids out there, except for 2, had no prior cheerleading experience before July.
Exactly. They all looked like they knew what they were doing and looked like they've been doing it for years.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be enough to beat Lincoln, just from our own observation, but that was really strong. And Lowell is going to have to work really hard, as they're the next ones up here, in order to move into a second-place spot. Are we in agreement so far that probably it's a Lincoln-Burton 1-2 right now after the first 3?
That's what it looks like to me.
What did you see out there that you liked, TJ?
I saw lots of nice, clean roll-offs, the extension in the beginning especially. They did the flip pyramid at the beginning and ended with a beautifully linked pyramid. Very visually appealing.
A lot of difficult stunts in there as well.
Yeah.
If you look at what, Coach Traverso may have been playing it a little close to the vest when she was talking to us, almost like, well, we're just happy to be here and we just want to make sure we get the routine down. But that was not an easy routine.
Yeah, I know they had lots of stunts in there. They had baskets and a couple pyramids.
The most men on the roster for Burton, they have 2. Starting to see more boys participating in cheerleading across the board and across the state of California. We're seeing that more and more at high school events.
Yeah, it's always nice to see the extra couple boys on the team. Helps it.
Certainly helps on the lifts.
Yeah, definitely.
A little easier on the lifts. Well, Burton did a fantastic job, and next up will be the defending champion. This is the one squad that is Lowell, the defending champion. Balboa's knocked them off their perch just one time, and that was in 2010, but in the 4 years of the competition of stunt, and this competition's been going on for 5 years, stunt has only been going on for 4, however. Lowell has won 3 of 4, and they are the defending champion, and they are led by their head coach, Cindy Chan. Chan's got a big squad as well in terms of numbers. Katie Lochran is one of the cheerleaders who isn't performing today, but she's the only one. Alexandra Jensen, Angelina Dignio, Clarissa Wong, Danae Kimball, Danielle Flores, Hina Iwata, Holly Reinhardt, Isabel Jusino, Joy Van Hasselt, Kayla Jones, Catherine Bruckner, Kirsten Cooney, Nancy Lynn, Natalie Perez, Nicole Jernan, Noelle Manley, Olivia Keynes, Suzanne Whitney Zhang, and Zariana Busby are your performers. Kirsten Cooney and Noelle Manley, the 2 captains. Kirsten goes by Kiki. She wanted us to make sure that we got that correctly. Lowell is performing in 2 of the 3 competitions, the stunt and the dance. So they will take the cheer portion, which is the middle competition. They'll take a break during that one. But so far, some very good performances that we've seen. And I'm sure you probably are doing a little mental comparison, TJ, from some of the things that you've done and some of the things you've witnessed. How is what you're seeing stacking up so far against a standard cheerleading competition?
Yeah, everything is looking pretty standard. That all of them have their own variations on things, and they have pretty advanced stunts for being so early in the competition season.
Well, next up, the Lowell Cardinals. finishes their routine, and that's the end of the stunt competition. And so your impressions of what you saw from the defending champions?
They did really good. Very clean and full of many stunts. Their cheer routine was jam-packed with a whole bunch of stunts, a lot of moving and heel stretches and great use of signs for the crowd. They had very difficult stunts at the end of it, too. They had a TikTok pyramid, which very difficult, very nice execution by them. And at the very end, they kind of bobbled a little, but they stuck it, and they ended on a strong note.
How important is it, TJ, on a tumbling pass for the girls to be synchronized? Or does it matter as much if they're slightly off in terms of their landing?
It's always definitely better to be more synchronized. That way you get the clean points. It's more important, obviously, to actually hit it, but if you can get it synchronized, it's difficult. It shows difficulty and shows that you have been working really hard to get it perfect with that other person.
Well, that concludes the stunt competition. Now, if you're just joining us, a reminder that the judges are compiling the points, but we're not going to know the results of the stunt till we're done with all 3 events. So, you know, for those of you scoring at home, you'll have to hang on to your scorecard. We're holding on to ours, but my impression, just eyeballing it here, I've got Lincoln with Burton and Lowell fighting for second place right there, or Balboa pulling up 4th in the rankings. It'll be interesting to see if the judges agree with that assessment, or TJ, if you even agree with that assessment.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Lincoln is definitely looks like it's going to be a hard one to beat, and Lowell and Burton are fighting really well, and Balboa as well. They're all fighting really hard to get the top scores.
What would you say, degree of difficulty? Who had the most difficult routine in your mind? Was it Lowell? Was it Lincoln? Burton? What's your thought?
Based on like stunts and stuff, I would actually say that Lowell had a lot of difficult stunts just because they had a lot of them, and a couple of them were moving, and they just had combinations that were a little bit more tricky in my opinion.
So is degree of difficulty then included in the scoring in your mind? I mean, if Lincoln does a quote-unquote easier routine and nails it, whereas Lowell does a more difficult routine and has a couple of glitches but ultimately sticks it, are more points warranted for the effort on the more difficult program rather than the easier program? Not like not like I could do any of this, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Well, in my opinion, I think that going that extra mile to step up the difficulty, if you bobble a little bit but still hit it in the end, I think that should get a little bit higher rankings because they're
some more
pushing
consideration.
those out of limits. Yep.
Okay, well, we'll see if that lines up. And what an upset would it be if Burton manages to pull second place out of this? I mean, in their mind, they might be thinking, well, sure, all the time, if we were able to get that, we had that all the way. But given the lack of experience on the squad going into this year, to come up second in the one competition you're in, even third, I think they would probably be ecstatic as to what they've accomplished.
Happy.
Well, who are we going to see in the cheer competition? Balboa is going to lead us off again, and as they are in all 3, though they're going to have a long break after the cheer, they're next to last performing in the dance competition. We'll get our first look at Washington and Marshall, as Washington and Marshall will be up second and third, and then we will conclude with Lincoln, who's got to be buzzing a little bit and riding high after their strong performance in the stunt. So our judges, Evan Pearson, Deja Joe, and Carissa Garlick, are compiling all the numbers, and it looks like they have gotten that complete along with some notes. And so our CIF staff here in the San Francisco section will hold on to those under lock and key. I don't see any marshals or security over there, but I'm sure they'll hang on tight in case someone tries to walk behind them on their bench on the far side of the gym with the PA announcer, Shauna Brewer, and try to glance over the shoulder and see if they can get a quick compilation of the scores. So now let's look at the cheer competition, and the rules here, TJ, vary slightly from the stunt, as does the scoring as well. So what do we expect, or what do we anticipate with the cheer competition? What should the audience look for?
They are allowed to use signs, palms, megaphones, but they are not allowed to stunt or tumble. So that includes like rolling, cartwheels, handstands, no pyramids at all, like nobody leaving the floor. They will be judged on choreography, which is 25 points, technique and skills is about 30 points, and showmanship, which is 40 points. So about the same as cheer, just with the stunting taken out. always looking for originality and variability.
These are 2.5-minute routines. Music can be used but can't, again, exceed 1 minute and 30 seconds. So about 2/3 of the performance almost can have music accompaniment, but there's got to be 1 minute of straight cheering. So you can't leave the floor. Can you jump in place?
I do believe you can jump. For cheering, jumping is a pretty key important part.
So that leaving the floor is not too strict, but in the more acrobatic sense.
Yeah, more gymnastics, yes.
All right, well, we will see how that rolls out for Balboa, Washington, Marshall, and Lincoln. Those are your performers in the cheer competition. Last year's champion is Lincoln, and they get to go last. So the school that won the year before gets to view how everyone's going to do it first, and then they get the opportunity to make the last impression on our judges. There were actually 5 participants last year: Lincoln, Balboa, Lowell, ISA, and Washington. ISA is not performing this year, and Lowell has elected not to perform in the cheer. Marshall is taking their place. Lincoln won last year with a 71.5 score. Balboa very close behind, 67.5. Lowell was then at 66.3, ISA 50.8, and then Washington rounded it out at 50.2. In this particular competition, Lincoln has won 3 of the 5 years it has been held. Balboa won in 2010 and 2009, Lincoln last year, and then in 07 and 08. Boy, Balboa's got a strong program. Of the 14 titles you can win over the last 5 years in the San Francisco section in the Spirit Squad competition, Balboa has won 5 of them. Lincoln has won 4, and Lowell has won 3. So pretty powerful group of 3 schools there. Wallenberg and Washington won in the dance competition. Wallenberg last year, Washington in 2008. But otherwise, it's the Balboa, Lincoln, and Lowell show in that order.
They'll be tough ones to beat.
Well, Balboa, how do if you have a performance that in your mind, TJ, was not your optimal or what you'd envisioned, how do you set that aside and then get ready for performance number 2?
Well, I always try to look back and see what went wrong and just know that it's okay, and that next time just prove yourself even more and show that you do know what you're doing and that you just made a little mistake, and then it's no big deal.
Well, the Balboa Buccaneers are coming up next, and one thing almost similar to girls volleyball, every event is fresh, so it's not like you're compiling the points and you're going to win a team competition at the end, so you're already behind. Everyone's at 0 here going into the cheer. We'll take a look at the Balboa Buccaneers, again led by head coach Rocio Ramirez and captain Cheyenne Anderson and Janet Campos. Well, for attitude points, you got to love what Balboa just brought out there. Wow. The Zaz factor, if I can call it that, was high on that particular routine. A nice bounce-back performance by the Buccaneers.
Yeah, a lot of great vocal cues. Very cute thrown ones in there, too.
Cheyenne Anderson in particular with a couple of you-knows and
yeah.
Fantastic. Well done by Balboa. What did you like about that, TJ?
They had such great crowd involvement. They were so enthusiastic, and they were actually yelling with the crowd. And it really helps when they tell the crowd, like, yell this with us and help us out. And they had the great use of those. And they were pretty together throughout the whole dance, and it was a really cute dance.
Well, a nice job by Balboa and a strong start. Once again, leading off for the second straight competition. Washington is up next. And this will be Washington's first performance. So they warmed up between 1:30 and 2, and they've been sitting around now for about an hour or so, watching, waiting, butterflies going. I guess the one advantage for Balboa going first and some of the other schools, Lincoln, Burton, and Lowell doing the stunt is, okay, we got that done. You can get some of the nerves out. But meanwhile, for Washington and Marshall to follow them, this is going to be their first attempt. So Larry Chan and Aaron Lynch, the head coaches for the Washington Eagles, Agnes Chen, Carmen Cortina, Diane Argueta, Frida Pereira, Katie Ma, Tia Riddle, Winnie Wang, Yokabet Paulus, Young Cho, Eugene Warren, and Eunasia Ledbetter are the squad for the Washington Eagles. Young Cho, Carmen Cortina, and Katie Ma are your captains. And not one senior on the roster. So the youngsters will lead them, as it's junior Carmen Cortina who is the reigning voice on the team as the only upperclassman on the squad. Everyone else a sophomore or freshman. So does that help Washington in that they've got a lot of youth all coming up together, or does that hurt in some ways because you don't have guidance too much from your upperclassmen?
I feel like it's really great bonding so that they're all on the same page. That way they don't feel like looked down upon or anything. I feel like it actually could be a benefit to them.
Well, and Coach Lynch and Chan telling us beforehand, this team is very self-driven. They do all their own choreography. They run everything. Pretty much Larry Chan saying, I handle the eligibility. Coach Lynch shows up and makes sure that the room is in use and we've got an adult on site. And after that, the girls just go and do their own thing. And they do a really great job of it. So perhaps the youth, not going to hurt them too much because they're very leader-oriented.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see what they have to put on the floor.
Well, we've gotten the scoring for Balboa after a very solid performance by the Buccaneers. Washington is on deck. Pretty fired up and trying to shake the nerves off over there. Those girls getting the pom-poms going. And Shauna Brewer, our PA announcer, set to announce and welcome Washington to the mat.
Eagles, let's fight! Eagle fans!
Washington solid, TJ. Not a high degree of difficulty, but what they did well.
They did. They were very clean, and their claps were really together. It all sounded as one. That's really hard to get.
And not a large squad. I was a little concerned. You know, one of the things the girls have to do is they have to make themselves heard above any cheering from the crowd. They have to make sure the judges can hear them. And obviously they're right in front of the judges, so you don't have to yell necessarily for the judges to be able to hear them, but you've got to have some enthusiasm. And Washington, with just 11 players on the, or 11 cheerleaders on the roster, yet managed to make as much noise, if not more, than Balboa.
That they did.
Marshall up next. Your sense of the scoring so far, Balboa and Washington, our first two performers.
I would say, based on maybe difficulty, that Washington is just a little bit down, lower in the rankings, but they executed it really well, so that should bump them up.
Well, we will see two more teams left to perform, Marshall and defending champion Lincoln. And Marshall, what a great story this is for the Marshall Phoenix. This is their first year of cheerleading in school history. In fact, the uniforms just arrived for Marshall this week. So brand new uniforms for the Phoenix. Only 7 players on the roster. They're led by head coach Mary Rose Claro. Maroon and black are the colors, and it's Day Monet Stevenson, Diana Racinos, Jennifer Lee, Kenesha Sanford, Valerie Trong, Zaria Clemens, and Zanae Clemens. Only 2 seniors on the roster, Day Monet Stevenson and Kenesha Sanford. Sanford, one of 2 captains on the team, Diana Racinos, the other. So Marshall is setting a precedent here. We are going to see the first cheerleading performance ever in Marshall school history, and that is a very storied history here in the San Francisco area. Marshall, a school that's been around for a long, long time. So not only are the girls setting a precedent, but they're laying a foundation, TJ. You got to take a little bit of pride if you're an athlete who is starting what's going to be a long-running program at your school. You're the first year. These girls will be able to come back their 10, their 20, their 30-year high school reunion and say, yep, we're the ones who started the cheerleading program at Marshall High School. And I got to think that carries a little bit of pride.
Yeah, definitely does.
That'll be one of those things where all the girls who come after them will have no idea who did it and who started it. But without the 7 athletes we're about to see out there in just a few moments for the Marshall Phoenix, what girls are going to be cheering here 10 years from now, that opportunity would never have been afforded without the work that these young women are putting in and have put in and are about to put in for Marshall High School. As well as talk about, you've got a head coach that you really enjoy working with and has coached you for a long time. What kind of bond gets developed between coaches and these cheerleaders over the course of a year's worth or even a career's worth of competitions and practices?
Based on the fact that there's lots of practices, lots of competitions, you get to spend a lot of time with your coaches. It's really nice to be able to have that bond with them, and it really helps each year that you know them so well that you can tell what's coming next, and it's not like a battle, and it's really nice being able to have them there.
Well, and obviously I would think that a lot of mentoring is what takes place as well.
Definitely.
Well, let's see what happens here as Marshall set to perform.
Marshall Phoenix.
The only performance for Marshall here today is in the cheer competition, the first one in school history, and you just witnessed it right here on your destination for high school sports, PlayOnSports.com. TJ, for a first performance, not bad for Marshall. Well done, and the dance routine was very well done.
Definitely was. They should be very proud. That was a really, really great first routine to put out on there.
And considering they only have 7 athletes out on the mat, generating a lot of noise. I mean, that could be, and a little bit intimidating as well. I think if you're probably got 14, 16, you can hide a little bit more if you're a cheerleader, something happens. But when there's 7, they're all out there and it's easy to see. So how would you score their performance based on the metrics that we're looking at here in cheer? Maybe not so much from a point perspective, but general overall quality, especially compared to what we saw with Balboa and Washington in the first 2, with defending champion Lincoln up next.
I would say they did pretty well. They held their own. They were pretty clean, and they had a really high energy. They definitely looked like they were having a ton of fun in the dance. And they were very crowd involving with their cheer, with the signs and the bouncing, and they were very loud for such a small team. Very impressive.
Well, now we will take a look at Lincoln, who did very, very well in the stunt competition. Lincoln last year finished 2nd in the stunts and 1st in the cheer. So this is actually their strength. And they're the defending champion, obviously, in show and cheer. And so this is their strength. This is where they really excel. And they did a fantastic first performance. So I got to think momentum certainly favors Lincoln going into this second competition.
I would have to agree with that.
Lincoln, again, led by their head coach, Sue Kenny. Assistants Adela Lee and Bertha Lee. The captains Lillian Waugh, Albina Prodich, and Jennifer Chan. So for Lincoln, when you've had a chance to take a look at what everyone else has done, TJ, and you now have the advantage of knowing, okay, this is what we need to do. I mean, you still have your performance that you need to do, but does that make it easier for you going into this, performing last, or harder?
It tends to be slightly easier, because then you can see what other teams did. If they were a little bit quieter on the cheer, then you know that you need to be a little bit louder. And if they had really high energy, you need to know that you need to bring 120%.
So not necessarily more pressure in your mind. You actually like going last in a competition.
Yeah, I prefer to go last. I like it better. That way you can see what you need to do, and that way you can be the last one in the judges' mind.
Jeff Kurtz alongside TJ Rivera, current San Francisco State University cheerleader and former captain at Concord High School's cheerleading squad. Got a chance to cheer in the Oakland Coliseum. Is that I'm assuming, the largest venue you've ever been in terms of cheering?
Yep, that is definitely the biggest.
And that was when Concord High School won a championship thriller against Rancho Cotati. What was the atmosphere like on the field at the end of that football game?
Oh, it was indescribable. It was just so amazing, that feeling of just finally winning and having that, the crowd and everybody was just feeding off of each other, and it was just such a great feeling. Because
your team must get attached to the results being produced out on the field as well, correct? I mean, over the course of the year, you're following the basketball team around, you're following the football team around. You must get really tied into how the football and the basketball teams are performing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lincoln now up in the final performance of the cheer competition, the defending champion, Lincoln squad, the Lincoln Mustangs. Lincoln finishes their performance, a strong performance, and great synchronization in the cheering.
That's exactly what I had in mind, too. Everything was so
Look at
clean
that. I'm
and
picking it
loud.
up. But go ahead, TJ. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, not at all. They were definitely very clean. They looked so in sync to me, and they were so loud and had such great energy and hit the crowd very well. I liked how they came out in the beginning, starting in the back, and worked their way towards the crowd. It was very good idea on their part.
Well, and how difficult is that to keep the synchronization? I mean, you've got a 2.5-minute routine there. There's a minute and a half worth of music. You don't have to use the full minute and a half, but you can't exceed it. But then the synchronization part, they had a long routine that I would almost equate to the old figures in figure skating, where you had to do the figure. I mean, that's pretty much what Lincoln was doing in that last sequence, was it not?
Yeah, it's exactly what they were doing there. And then, like you said, it is pretty hard to get it that in sync. It takes a lot of practice. They definitely worked very hard for that.
Well, now we're going to turn our attention to dance as our judges again compile cheerleading. But before we do that, let's take a look at how we would score this. We had Balboa, Washington, Marshall, and Lincoln. What's your order of finish? We're going to see if we match up with what the judges give us at the end of the competition. In stunt, TJ and I had Lincoln 1. I put Burton 2, but we could flip-flop them with Lowell. It could be a 2-3. I don't know who you had second in that, TJ.
Yeah, I had Lowell as second.
Okay,
in that
so
category.
Lincoln, Burton, Lowell, Balboa for me in stunt. For TJ, Lincoln, Lowell, Burton, Balboa in stunt. Meanwhile, for cheer, who do you have? What do you like 1 through 4?
For cheer, I would have to say Lincoln first, Washington second, Marshall and Balboa following after Marshall third and Balboa fourth.
All right, so you had Lincoln 1, Washington 2, Balboa 3, and Marshall 4. I would defer to you on that, though I thought Balboa had a really strong performance as well, but you had him third behind Washington.
I felt like Washington was just a slight bit more energetic and sharp, and it was a very tough decision for me, though.
But close. It looks like we have a very
close.
tough fight for second place in both the stunt and the cheer, but a pretty clear number 1 in Lincoln for stunt and cheer so far in your mind.
Yeah, in my mind.
All right, well, we will see if our judges, Evan Pearson, Deja Joe, and Carissa Garlick, agree when we get to that part of the competition, or actually, the unveiling of the results, which will take place, again, after all 3 events are over. Now we look at dance, and dance, a slightly different animal here from what we have seen through the first 2. TJ, how do we break this down for dance? What are the folks at home who are watching this, what are they going to see in terms of the dance competition?
They're going to see a lot of different combinations of dance. Most teams tend to use pom, jazz, and cheer punk, or cheer funk, excuse me. And there is no break dancing allowed, though, so got to keep that in mind, too. I like to see the different combinations of pom and dance and cheer and see how they come up with it.
Unfortunate, no breakdancing allowed. I was going to bust out the old cardboard from the early 80s, but this routine, again, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Palms must be incorporated into the performance for a minimum of 45 seconds. So there will be some segment of palm routine, at least 45 seconds of that. But you can utilize the palm in the course of a dance sequence. So it's not going to be like a cheer sequence, folks, that you've just seen, where you'll see a lot of crowd involvement necessarily and, you know, cheering out for colors or mascots or anything like that. Just the use of the palms in the course of the dance routine.
Yeah, it's mainly like the visual effect of using the palms in different dance and routines and moving and use the floor.
And what goes into the selection of music? Because that obviously plays a huge factor. Are you selecting music based on what's going to amp up the crowd, just what calls to you as a team? Does someone walk in one day and say, I heard this thing by Bieber and it's great, we're running with it? I mean, how does it work?
It definitely varies. I know for our competitions before in our dance team, we have picked themes. We've done different, I remember like Wizard of Oz was one of ours one time, and 80s, and it just all depends on the team. If you want to pick like popular songs that the crowd knows and like gets excited for, or like maybe even oldies that like a lot of people know, and it all depends on how like your team feels. And
do you anticipate who your audience is going to be as well? So if you've got a lot of parents coming in to watch, okay, we're going to tailor it to their generation, or does that even get taken into consideration?
Sometimes it does. Generally, You kind of try to think about your judges too, and see if they're going to be like older or younger, like what they might like, and also like what your team is into. Like if you choose songs that your team, like some of the teammates like, and some of the teammates are like, oh, that's okay, like then it'll be a less successful routine. I feel like if your whole team is really into the songs, I feel like that routine is going to just blow you out of the water.
So if I were to walk into San Francisco State's cheerleading practice and say, okay, ladies, here's what we're doing, new dance routine, go. From that sentence to the music selection, the choreography, the practice, how long would it take before you guys are ready to perform?
I would say probably about a week or so is when we usually compile our routines. We actually get it pretty quickly. We agree a lot on a lot of things, so that helps speed up the process, and it makes it really nice.
And who does the choreography with your team at San Francisco State?
It's a combination of the cheer girls and the coaches' input as well, but mainly the girls.
And so what kind of practice time would that require, TJ? Is that 2 hours a day of practice time once the music has been selected and the routine has been put together? Or, I mean, what is that, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours? I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah, our practices are generally 2 hours, 3 times a week. One of the days we do actually go to tumbling for about an hour, so that adds a little bit extra time. But
so you're there 6 hours a week, and in those 6 hours, from the time you selected the music, developed the routine, and were ready to perform at that week's game or at that competition, really 6 hours is what it would take for you guys to nail it.
Just about. I mean, depending on how long it is or
sure.
How difficult it is, it varies a little bit, but generally it's about that 6 hours.
Okay. Folks, we are live at the San Francisco City Section Spirit Squad AAA cheer, pom, and dance competition. We have already seen the stunt portion of the competition, the cheer portion of the competition. The dance one is coming up next, and 7 schools will be involved in this. Wallenberg is the defending champion. Last year they beat Mission by 3.2 points. Wallenberg over Mission, 77.5 to 74.3. Lincoln, 72.3. They were third. Balboa was fourth, 71.5. Burton with a 69, and then sixth, ISA, 67.7. This year, Washington is adding themselves to the competition. Otherwise, we've got all 7 schools that are going to be performing here. Mission leading off, and Wallenberg wrapping up. So we got Mission, who is second last year by a mere 3 points, going first. Wallenberg, as the defending champ, is going to get to see what their closest competitor is going to do, and then best it in the last performance of the day if they can. Be a really interesting sequence here to see how this goes, and order makes a huge difference. And for Mission, boy, if you really wow the judges on your first one and set the bar really high, now everyone's chasing you as well.
Exactly. That's also another one of the benefits of going first.
So a huge opportunity for Mission, who has yet to perform. So they, again, folks, practice started between 1 and 2, your warm-up period. And now here we are. I'm diving to my phone for the exact time, folks. Synchronize your computers at home. 3:15 almost in the afternoon, 3:13 to be specific. So depending on when Mission warmed up, they could have been sitting now for over 2 hours or at least an hour and 15 minutes before they perform. And they were second last year. They get to lead off and try to set the bar really high. What do you do to keep yourself warm between all these, or while all these other events are going on and you're waiting?
I like to practice in my head and also out behind the stands, and like just mentally also just keep in mind, like, we're going first, we're going to set the bar really high, and just try not to think too hard about it.
Well, here come the Mission Bears. Gigi Hasley is the head coach. Anastasia Fulbright, Armani Reed, Benjanae Knight, Brise Bracey, Claudia Williams, Callie Rice, Kiana White, Lena Larosky, and Akila Mixon are in attendance. Kiana White, Akila Mixon, and Claudia Williams are your captains. Well, Mission plagued by a skipping CD. Oh, technology. And unfortunate for them, but the girls did a nice job recovering and bouncing right back into the next routine when the music picked up again. And it was hard to tell. Was the CD skipping or was that designed? But
yeah, they made it look like it was meant to be. Like it didn't look like it phased them at all.
So how does that factor in then to the judging? I mean, again, we saw that. That's only our second issue of the day. Balboa had a little bit of an issue with their music at the very beginning of the stunt competition the first time around. But now, in the dance portion of the competition, where the music is playing the entire time, how much will the judges take that into effect?
I feel like if performers can keep up and make it seem like the music was supposed to be like that, I feel like if I were a judge in my mind, I would say that earns them a little bit more points because that's really hard to do.
Well, next up is Lowell. Again, last year Lowell finished. Actually, Lowell didn't participate, so there you go. They didn't finish at all, but they are now in for the first time this year. Washington also in as well. Those are your two new participants. Lowell to be followed by Lincoln, ISA, International Studies Academy, Washington, Balboa, and then your defending champion, Wallenberg. After that concludes, the numbers will be compiled, the awards, or the winners will be announced, the awards will be presented, and that will conclude our coverage here from Burton High School, the host of the San Francisco City Section Spirit Squad competition. Folks, stay tuned for our football coverage tonight. In fact, invite you back at 7:30. We've got the Northern and Southern California Regional Championships taking place in the high end and the low end of the state. Divisions 3, 2, and the Open games, live audio webcasts with highlights using Snappy TV. We're going to have those highlights up as the games are in progress, almost instantaneously after the play is over. We'll be able to get highlights up of those great plays that are going to take place in the 6 games we're covering this evening. Champions in those games will play next week on the 14th and 15th at the Home Depot Center in Carson, California, as we conclude our fall coverage here on PlayOnSports.com in the state of California. And this is the last fall event, fall championship in the San Francisco City section. We've covered the soccer finals here for the first time on PlayOnSports.com, the football championship on Thanksgiving Day, the girls volleyball final. And now we're going to conclude in the San Francisco section with the dance portion of the Spirit Squad competition. So Lowell is up next. And Lowell, again led by head coach Jacob Flores and assisted by Cindy Chan. And the Cardinals set and ready to go and are just waiting the go-ahead from our judges who are sitting to our immediate right here, TJ. We've seen them working furiously, all with pencils, because you make a note, you erase, you make a number, you change it. How you should do the crossword puzzle as well, folks. That's our one tip for the day. I'd like to thank also the other members of our team, Lee Craner, who's our producer today, Hans Webb, providing all the video. I'm Jeff Kurtz alongside TJ Rivera. And happy you're joining us wherever you're following the action on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/PlayOnNetwork, or on PlayOnSports.com. These events, whether it's cheerleading, football, or anything else, available on all of your mobile devices, your TV, if you're able to link to your television set, or, of course, on your computer. And happy you're joining us wherever you're following the action from around the world. Well, a little bit longer delay. As the assistant commissioner for the San Francisco City Section, John Slatunich, is talking with our judges. I'm not quite sure what the conversation is about. TJ, have you been able to catch any of the dialogue?
No, it seems like it's on the other side of the table a little bit there.
So right now what John is discussing with the judges is an opportunity for Mission to have a redo, depending upon how the music goes for the remaining competitors. So if there was an issue, I guess the question boils down to, is there an issue with the CD or the MP3, or is the issue with the sound system?
Okay.
And if the issue is with the CD, there's not a whole lot Mission can do. However, if other competitors have trouble, or Mission is the only one who does not, or is the only one who does have trouble, then they may get an opportunity to perform again. So Mission, who ended up second last year, could get a chance at a second opportunity after Wallenberg completes, depending on how this is all scored. So John was telling the judges, go ahead and score what you saw, and then we'll take a look and see how the other 6 teams do and how the music holds up, and then we'll see if that's going to require a redo or anything along that line.
Okay.
So that's why the longer delay, folks. We've been pretty clockwork going along here with a team finishing, the judges scoring, and a minute or so passes, and the next team's ready to hit the floor. So how much does this impact Lowell? You have a longer wait time.
Makes it that much more nerve-wracking, I feel like. But it looks like they've been taking it pretty well.
Well,
saying hi to their friends in the crowd.
Not quite at the same scale, but it's almost like the gymnastics competition in the Olympics, where maybe there's a long delay in scoring, and you're up next on the vault, and you've got to wait longer than normal, and you've got your routine down to, I've got usually a minute, I do this, I do this, I do that, I do that, and now it's longer, and now, okay, do I repeat? What if I get stuck in the middle? And I don't know if you're a superstitious person, TJ, or not, or if your team is, but we like to do it this way in this order, and if we deviate from that, then it throws us off our game. I don't know. But Lowell now ready and set to perform. They are number 2 up here in the dance competition. Well, given they sat around for a long time waiting while we had that conversation about the music, Lowell nailed it.
They did so well. So together.
Just the right amount of attitude mixed with technique and choreography, and a really fantastic performance by the Lowell Cardinals. And some of their peers on the team getting them all fired up right before with a little cheer of their own right here in the front row.
Always a great start to a routine.
So next up is Lincoln, but Lincoln's got a tough act to follow there. But Lincoln's been doing a great job all day, so nothing to indicate that we shouldn't expect another strong performance by the Mustangs.
Remember we were talking earlier with the coaches, and they said that their prom routine was fabulous, so excited to see this one.
The F word that you like to hear from your coach, fabulous, as part of the description of the routine. And Lincoln, again, has already qualified for nationals, led by head coach Sue Kenny. And so they are really playing with house money to a certain degree here, TJ, and that they've already qualified for nationals. They're looking to tack on a San Francisco City Section banner, and they've got a really good shot, if they do well here in the dance, at a sweep of all three events, which we haven't seen here in the San Francisco City Section since 2010, not all that long ago. But Balboa is the one school that has swept all three events, as they've been three. In 2007-08, that school year, Lincoln won show, cheer, and dance, but the show, cheer with stunt was not part of the competition. So Balboa's won all three, but after that, nobody's been able to do a sweep, and given how we've scored it, at least, we've got Lincoln winning in stunt and cheer. They're going three in dance. A lot of competitors after them, but they've got a good opportunity here.
Yeah.
What do they need to do, though, to pull it off? I mean, do they just need to equal the enthusiasm, the energy, and the execution of their other routines, whatever they're doing for the dance, but match that? Is that enough, do you think?
I feel like it could be enough. Always helps to have that little extra, though. But from what we've seen today, I would say their routine should be very, very nice.
Well, our judges are wrapping up their scoring from that last routine. Again, our judges, Evan Pearson, Deja Joe, and Carissa Garlick. They are all members of the Universal Cheerleading Association, who's providing the judges for this. Shauna Brewer, who's our PA announcer, is also a part of the UCA. And in order to be in the UCA, what you end up doing is you end up coaching at the high school level and the collegiate level. Not a specific team per se, but you go to camps, you provide mentorship, you're going to maybe practices and such when requested by other coaches. And I'm sure you participated in many a UCA camp over the years.
Mm-hmm.
What makes those special in your mind? Is it the practice, or is it the fact that you get a chance to bond for 3, 4, 7 days with not only your peers, but the other athletes out there?
Well, for me, camp is my favorite part, is the bonding. That's always such a good part.
We can talk more about that in a minute. Here come the Lincoln Mustangs. Well, a little hiccup with the music at the beginning, but Lincoln recovered well, and they went palms throughout.
Yeah, they held on their palms very well. They white palms against their yellow and red uniforms makes them really stand out, and they did a really good job of keeping it clean and looking all together.
Well, a nice performance by Lincoln. I know we have 4 more teams to go here, TJ, but is that enough, what we just saw from the Mustangs?
depending on how it is, I think it was a pretty good routine, but we'll have to see how if the other four can bump them down.
And again, Mission may have an opportunity to do a redo, given that they had music issues. And how much pressure is on John Zlatunich, the assistant commissioner for the San Francisco section. He's running the music into the corner to our left. You can see the the PA announcers table on your screen in your lower left corner. John is further left than that as you're taking a look at it, and right in front of the speaker. If it doesn't go well, all eyes turn to him. That's got to be the high. I'd be sweating over there myself. And, yeah, exactly. So up next is ISA, and they have been sitting the entire time, much like Mission had throughout. Wallenberg is going to end up sitting the longest as they're the last one to go, and they've been watching the stunt and the cheer competitions progress in front of them. Last year, ISA finished 6th out of the 6 teams, but a strong showing, 67.7. There were less than 10 points separating the 6 squads last year.
Wow, that's so close.
So a very tight competition last season, especially compared to the cheer and the cheer with stunts, where there was a 25-point separation in cheer with stunts and a 21-point separation in just the straight cheer. So a mere 10 points. So you know we're going to get a good performance if you can base anything on last year at all. And ISA is coming back with some athletes from last year's squad. Our first look at the Cobras. They are led by head coach Valerie Bell, who's also a middle school counselor and just helped guide the American Youth Football Association, her Youth Football Association cheerleading squad to the national title. So congratulations to her. She came in on a high and was bubbling and only has 2 returners on her Cobras squad of 8. Angel Tobias, Brianna Taylor, Carlin Williams, Justine Blanco, Katia Galvez, Shantia Harry, Tamesia Wakefield, and Zane Lewis. Captains are Tamesia Wakefield and Brianna Taylor. A senior and a junior, Angel Tobias, the other senior on the team with her teammate, Brianna Taylor. So ISA, once again, has been sitting around for a while. Washington, Balboa, and Wallenberg to follow. Scores in from the last performance by Lincoln. And you got to think, TJ, that Coach Bell over there to our right, as she's talking to her team, is going to offer some words of encouragement. And they will be effervescent, to say the least. Yeah. That woman's got energy to burn, I'll tell you.
All right, we're ready to get started with our dance section.
ISA stands for the International Studies Academy. Here come the Cobras.
Academy, give it up for them.
for a team that's been sitting around for almost 2 hours, TJ. Nice job.
Definitely very high energy.
How much does spacing play a role? Do judges look at that in terms of, okay, here's how you should be spaced in terms of a stage performance, and then where you end up over the course of the performance?
Yeah, they look at different spacing on how close you are to each other, and that kind of factors into their scorecard. And then use of the floor, definitely. They had only 8 girls, but it made it look so big. They spread out really well, and that should get them some positive points in that area.
Well, do they improve on their 67.7 score from last year?
I feel like they definitely have a chance at improving that score. It was a very good routine. I liked the different mixture of musics. I thought that was very clever on their part.
Yeah, we had our first Indian drop in there. Some
Yeah.
Indian music thrown in, which was a nice touch. First time we've heard that today. So Washington is up next, and Washington performed in the cheer competition in addition to the dance. They did not perform in the stunt. Again, they do all their own choreography. All the kids do their own choreography, and not a senior on the team. So what we're about to see from the Washington Eagles is all generated by these student athletes. And anyone who thinks that these girls don't deserve the moniker, and boys don't deserve the moniker of student and athlete, I dare you to come out and try to do what some of these kids are doing out here today. I've already blown out a hamstring just watching. So the Washington Eagles next, but who do they have their eye on in terms of who they need to bump off? Who's in front of them, do you think? Is it Lincoln and Lowell right now running 1-2 in some combination?
Yeah, that's what I would definitely say.
And again, I'll highlight, and I'll probably highlight this again as well, but Mission may have an opportunity for a redo. They went first and had some musical glitches that really threw them off their routine, though they certainly recovered nicely. But there was some conversation between the section administrators and the judges that if everyone else's routine went fine and Mission was able to either repair the CD or the music if that was the issue, or if it was just the player, then they would have an opportunity at another shot at it. So keep that in the back of your minds, folks, as we get set for our last 3 performances of the day. It's Washington, Balboa, and defending champion Wallenberg who are due up. And again, a bit of a delay as our judges compile their results from ISA's performance. Stay tuned after this, our awards ceremony. And folks, while we have an opportunity, want to let you know about our school broadcast program. What we're doing today can also be done as a class or a club at your high school. How do you find out more about that? Well, if you go to playonsports.com/SBP, that's playonsports.com/SBP for school broadcast program, then you can go ahead and find out how you could bring this to your school. But just exactly what TJ and I are doing, and Lee Craner is doing, producing this and providing all the graphics, and Hans Webb is doing with the video, your students can do as well. And it's a great opportunity to learn at the high school level. I mean, I know if we had this at my high school when I was going to school, I would have been all over it. Even playing sports as I would have done this as well. And you know that when you go to Cal and Stanford, everyone and their mom wants to do play-by-play for the football team, so take a number. But if you have a chance to get that experience at the high school level, those skills are immediately transferable when you graduate. So a great opportunity. Again, playonsports.com/SBP for school broadcast program to find out more. Washington set to go again with a wait time, but they are now ready. They are being summoned to the mat. It's the Washington Eagles, who last year didn't participate, but are doing so for the first time with their own choreographed routine as done by the girls on the squad.
Give it up for the Washington Eagles. If I can get Balboa Buccaneers.
Short, sweet, and to the point from the Washington Eagles. Well, my impressions, TJ, I'll ask myself this question first out of the gate this time. Great spacing on the mat on the part of Washington. I mean, you talked about it with ISA, with not a large contingent of cheerleaders. They made a big space for themselves and made their presence known, and I thought the Eagles did a great job. They used almost the entire mat.
Yes, definitely.
What else did you see that you like, though, beyond my layman's interpretation of what just happened?
No, it was good. They had a really great routine. It was really fun and energetic, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun doing it. And like you said, the great use of floor, that's so hard to do with such a small team. And they, at one point, they did look like they had the entire floor full of girls.
Yeah, and folks, let's do the quick count on the Washington roster. That was 11 athletes out there covering a mat that's pretty much from one three-point line to the other here on the basketball court at Burton High School. So a great use of space, a nice job by the Eagles. And next up is Balboa, who's competing in their third straight event. And this is a high school that has won 5 of the 14 championships in these 3 competitions. They have won the show and cheer with the stunt once. They've won the cheerleading twice and the dance twice. And as recently as 2010, before Wallenberg came away with a surprise win last year, Balboa finished 4th, a mere 6 points behind Wallenberg. Again, just want to emphasize, last year, 10 points, not even 10 points, 9.8 separated first from 6th. So it was very tight, and from what I can see so far, it's going to be fairly close again this year.
Yeah, definitely very, very close this year.
So Balboa, what do they need to do? Balboa and then Wallenberg left to wow the judges. Balboa, are we still in alignment that it's a Lincoln Lowell and some combination of 1-2 based on the 5 schools we've seen so far?
Yeah, so far that's it.
Who do you like better so far, Lincoln or Lowell, in terms of what you saw?
Based on originality with the Palms, I think I believe it was Lincoln. I liked their routine was.
So if we ended it here before Balboa and Wallenberg, you'd have Lincoln sweeping all 3 events.
Yeah, I would.
First time since 2010, and only the second time in section history if that were to occur. Now, again, why are we not giving you the results? It's not just a tease, folks. It's because nobody knows, except for the judges and the CIF staff here in the San Francisco City section, because they're the ones with the results, and all the winners get announced at the end. And I'm assuming we'll be going from 4th to 1st in the stunt, the cheer, and then 7th to 1st in the dance. So someone's going to know they won, even if their name hasn't been announced yet, because if they're the only ones left as you work your way up. But we'll see. Award ceremony to follow, folks, and invite you to stay tuned for that here on PlayOnSports.com. We'll be waiting as well. I mean, one of the few events that we broadcast, TJ, where you don't know the outcome as it's in progress.
Yep.
I was covering football last night at Sacramento State as Granite Bay advanced to the Division I championship game by beating St. Ignatius from the Central Coast section, though St. Ignatius is in San Francisco. But, you know, that's up on the board the whole time. We know exactly where we're at.
Yeah.
I'd be giving you the score here, folks, except we don't know it, so we're best left to our collective speculation. Is there any disadvantage, TJ, and I'm sure you've had this happen from time to time over the course of your cheerleading career, where the music you've selected pops up in somebody else's performance that's happening in front of you?
Yep, that has happened. We try. That's why we, with our themes, we try to pick ones that are a little bit more out there that help, so that they're not too overplayed. It because I know at competitions when we go and it's really big competitions and there's like 10 teams or more, and there's always that one song that's in all of them, and
it can be a little bit like the crowd has heard this one before. And so,
and it's hard to make it unique.
Well, we'll see if Balboa, I mean, the one thing that's been different about what we've seen so far is when ISA dropped in, as we said, the Indian music. Pop Indian music, and that was a nice touch. So we'll see if Balboa and Wallenberg do anything differently. And as Balboa is next, and then our defending champion, Wallenberg, to follow. Here comes the Balboa Buccaneers. In a word, wow.
Wow, it is. That was.
I got a phone call from the Rockettes during that. They were jealous and want their leg kicked back.
That was a great use of a kick line. I liked their variety, too, that started in 2 lines and came into 1 and used their arms in it even. Tricky.
That was by far Balboa's best performance, head and shoulders above anything else they've done so far today.
Yes, definitely.
That was great. Well, that may have, at least in my mind, that may have vaulted them into the lead at this stage,
yeah.
I would think. High energy, complicated, but executed extremely well. The transition from the back kick line to the front, and on top of that, not kicking the person in front of you, there is amazing. And then the fact that the back line walked underneath and incorporated themselves into a longer kick line was a real highlight of that routine, I thought.
Yeah, it was such a fun routine to watch.
And didn't know what you were going to expect next.
Yeah, what's coming next? Ooh.
Well, if there's points for the ooh factor, TJ Rivera, my analyst, just gave Balboa high marks for that one. Wallenberg is the defending champion, and they are up next. They squeaked by Mission last year by 3.2 points, and Balboa, I think, with a 71.5 last year, had to do at least that well, if not better, this year.
Yeah, definitely.
What a great.
They're going to be a tough one to beat.
Rocio Ramirez told us before the events today that she told her team, look, you got to remember this is fun and it's a competition. How you measure that is not necessarily whether you win a medal or not. It's can you look yourself in the mirror and say, I gave 100% when we're done. And I think Balboa, by that standard, has
definitely done that.
Yeah, they have met and exceeded their goals for this competition, especially given the tough start they had with the music glitch in their first performance, but it has been progressively better, and that last one was well done. That leaves it to Wallenberg. The Wallenberg squad has a very interesting backstory. The Bulldogs, first of all, have been sitting around and waiting for this competition to happen and the opportunity to defend their title since they got here at 1 o'clock and warmed up. Their head coach is Kit DeGiulio Soldado, and her assistant is Latrice Manuel. The Bulldogs are outstanding academically, Kit was telling us, and she should know she's their academic counselor for all of them, so that's one thing she keeps an eye on. But Wallenberg doesn't get the opportunity to practice in their gym. Their gym's a little bit smaller. Wallenberg's actually at a former elementary school, and so the Bulldogs practice in the auditorium. They get very little gym time, so this has got to feel like they're in the middle of the Oakland Coliseum performing here, given how large this is. Elena Byers, Javansa Mangoshvili, Helen Gian, Kamira Troop, Kelsey Stewart, Serena Chen, Tina Yee, Vanessa Yoon, and Veronica Brown with Troop as your captain. We're going to get our first look at the defending champion, the Wallenberg Bulldogs. There appears to be an issue with the music again, so Wallenberg is going to have to do a take 2. They were all set on they were on the launch pad ready to go, and I suppose, though, if you've already waited since 1 o'clock, what's a few more minutes?
True, very
to
true.
Get the routine nailed down, but that's the equivalent of you're on the balance beam ready to go, and then they say, hey, can you get off that balance beam for a moment? And we'll get you back up there again in a second. It took all I had just to get up on the balance beam. So Wallenberg is the last scheduled performance of the day. But again, Mission may get a second opportunity. And so right now, while Wallenberg, I guess I can't tell if it's their player, and I'm not sure if we're going iPod, phone, CD, or what, but they're scrambling right now for music from another phone or another device, and I think they've got that nailed down. Kit DiGiulio,
and is a member of the nationally ranked cheer squad,
the head coach for Wallenberg, was hustled over, and Kit DiGiulio Soldato grabbed Coach Manuel's phone. So plus to Coach Manuel for having all the music on her phone today.
Right,
came in handy. And here goes Wallenberg. Take two for the Wallenberg Bulldogs. Wallenberg starts with Dougie Fresh, and they end with a couple of ballerina moves on the ends. And is that enough, though, to beat Balboa, Lowell, Lincoln in your mind, TJ?
I don't know. I don't know if it's enough to keep their title. Balboa was pretty good.
Well, Mission is going to get a second chance. And with this opportunity for Mission, given that they had issues with their music the first time around, a huge chance to make a move. And they were so fired up for a second chance, they sprinted onto the mat before they'd even been called on. They were the PA announcer. I know exactly. They are certainly very eager for the second chance. Our PA announcer, Shauna Brewer, said, and Mission up next. And Mission's like, that's us, quick. And they were out on the floor before the judges had finished scoring from the last performance by Wallenberg. So Mission scores from the first time around will be thrown out. So they are at 0. So they are our final competitor. And again, this is the squad that finished second last year to Wallenberg. But in my mind, Balboa has leapfrogged Lincoln and Lowell, who are battling it out for that 2 spot. So if Mission can hit a home run here, they could sneak in and claim the title, and what would really be a turnaround given how the competition started out for them in dance.
Yeah.
Well, after seeing what happened to them the first time, And obviously the music threw them off, TJ. What do they need to do differently? And is their routine enough to bounce what Balboa, Lincoln, and Lowell did?
It might be enough as long as they can bring their energy and show that they deserve to be here and have that, their facials, and just hit everything spot on and pull it all together and just be all in sync.
Well, easy to say, and as you
much harder
are,
to do.
are very well aware, TJ, you're right, much harder to do. But Mission will get that second chance, and that's a great, I think, a fantastic ruling on the part of the section and the judges to allow that, given that everyone else's music, while hiccups in getting it started, once it was on, it went, whereas right. Mission was suddenly scratching and doing a beatbox right in the middle of the performance, and while the girls picked it up and performed admirably with a either a fresh CD or a clean copy of their MP3, they should be ready to go here. But the results are in for Wallenberg, so now it is all Mission. They are your final performer here this afternoon at Burton High School. We'll turn it over to Shauna Brewer.
Give it up for the Mission Bears.
Well, a nice bounce back by Mission that almost started out with their coach having to take a phone call before the performance started. Hold on, girls, I got to get this. But after that, Mission did a really great job, and you could see what the performance was designed to look like from that first effort, where if they hadn't run into those glitches, but still, I think very, very strong.
Yeah, very, very strong. They came in really strong the first time, even though the music was kind of glitchy, and this time they came even stronger. I felt like they just they knew what they needed to do, and they did it.
And then the question becomes, is it enough? And actually, this is where the real nervous part of the competition comes in, because you're waiting on the results. Did you win the election is really what we're looking at here. And the returns are pouring in from Election Central, from our trio of judges. To our right, Evan Pearson, Deja Joe, and Carissa Garlick. As our cheerleaders are out on the floor. And we wait to see, and I'm not sure what order these are going to come at us in, so if it's going to be stunt, cheer, then dance, or vice versa, I'm not sure yet. But right now, the section has got their calculators out, and they're crunching some numbers. So high score possibilities, perfection in the cheer stunt competition, the maximum number of points you can get is 100. Ditto for the just cheer competition and also for the dance. So you're looking at last year, the high score in any one of these competitions was 78.7 in the stunt. That's out of 100. So there's certainly a lot of margin that the judges are playing with in terms of the point totals. But one thing I've noticed about cheerleading, and maybe, I don't know if you've done some of this over the course of your career or not, TJ, but a lot of schools now, especially we see this at football games, they're cheering on opposite sides, and then at some point, one cheer squad, I guess usually the home team, will go around to the other side, pull the visitors over. They'll all perform on the one side together, then they'll all go back onto the visitors' side and perform together before the teams split up. And there seems to be a real camaraderie in cheerleading that, you know, because you're not putting on pads and hitting each other, you're performing on opposite sides of the field, even though you're still rooting for your team. There seems to be a lot of camaraderie that's available because you see these kids at camps.
Yeah, exactly. Camps is definitely where it all starts. It brings all the teams so close together. And I don't know if you can see very well, but you pretty much can. All the teams are mixing and they're having so much fun together, and it's a great sport to just meet new people.
Well, one thing we saw last night at Granite Bay is the cheerleaders did push-ups after every score by the Grizzlies.
Oh, wow.
And the Grizzlies put up a lot of points. So by the end of the night, there were 45 points on the board. And that's not, folks, just another 7 when they got a touchdown. We'll drop down and do 7 more push-ups. Now we're up to 35 points. No, they do 7 when it's 7. They do 14 when they're at 14. They do 17 when they're at 17. They did 45. I didn't do the math as to how many push-ups those girls did, but it had to be in the neighborhood of about 300 or so over the course of a football game. I don't know if that's ever been recommended, and I know San Francisco State no longer has a football program, but I'm guessing that your squad might have put the kibosh on that idea if it had been presented by your cheer coach. Yeah. And you certainly don't want that for basketball.
Oh, no.
After every bucket.
That would be a lot of push-ups.
Well, we are waiting right now on the totals to come in from the section, and then they, after the calculation, are going to announce the final results. And as you can see, the celebration keeps taking place out here on the floor.
It's such a great way to get your mind off of who's going to get first, and it helps. It always helps me relax more when we get to have fun before the results are given.
Yeah, it certainly makes it better than sitting around with your team, twiddling your thumbs, going, okay, I wonder how this is going to go.
Exactly.
Because there is a lot of energy that's being worked out on the floor right now. And then I'm guessing the teams then move back into their respective squads for the announcement. Mm-hmm. So let's take a look once again at who is in which competition. As a reminder for you, Lincoln, Burton, Lowell, and Balboa were in the stunt competition, and that's how we listed them in order, TJ and I, in terms of how we think this is going to go. Lincoln, Burton, Lowell, and then Balboa. In cheer, Lincoln, Washington, Balboa, and Marshall were the competitors. And again, that's in the order as TJ and I had scored it ourselves, although we're not giving a point total. But in the dance competition, we haven't run through that. Is this Balboa's to lose in the dance in your mind? It is in mine, but
yeah, I would have to say Balboa is definitely the front runner in the dance competition.
Lincoln or Lowell?
I actually think I might say Lowell.
Okay.
Lowell did really well.
So Lowell 2, Lincoln 3, maybe Mission 4.
Yeah.
Then Wallenberg 5, ISA 6, Washington 7. Is that how?
Yeah,
okay. All right. Well, there you go. So look at that. Balboa, Lowell, Lincoln, Mission, Wallenberg, ISA, and Washington is how we've scored dance. Shauna Brewer, though, is calling all competitors to exit the floor and pull up the mat. With a little help from our officials as well and our judges. So Burton High School expediting the breakdown of the mat process here by pulling everybody in.
Smart thinking on their part.
So you see that on your screen as well, folks. And
wait to flip over the mats until you put the tape on them. Wait to flip over the mats until you put the tape on them.
And our PA announcer.
If your mat does not have tape, please flip it back over.
As you're seeing a little maintenance out on the court, folks. And while that's taking place, again, want to let you know that you can set this up for your schools, not cheerleading, but broadcasting your own events by going to playonsports.com/SBP. You can find out more about how to get broadcasting going at your school as either a class or a club. Again, that's playonsports.com/SBP. And also want to let you know you can follow us through all of your usual social media outlets that you utilize. Facebook.com/PlayOnSports. You can go ahead and subscribe to our Twitter feed or subscribe to our highlights on YouTube. And we will have this full competition up for you to view after its conclusion. And you can watch that in perpetuity. As long as we exist, you'll be able to watch the 2012 cheerleading championships. I almost said 2011, and 2012 is coming to a close. We're almost into 2013, and we'll have a lot more coverage coming your way, but we've got football games for you tonight, folks, beginning at 7:30. 6 different regional finals in Divisions 3, 2, and the Open, all around the state of California. Then next week, the 14th and 15th, on Friday and Saturday, we will have the state finals for football. We'll give you a few days off, folks, and then we'll hit it with basketball tournaments right after Christmas. So there will be plenty to watch here on PlayOnSports.com. Meanwhile, as folks are watching our scintillating coverage of mats being taken off the floor, and we're just making sure cheerleaders don't get taken out by one of these things. And I harken back to 1985 when Vince Coleman of the St. Louis Cardinals got run over by the tarp as they were waiting to play their playoff series, and he was knocked out of the playoffs. So you don't want to have your cheerleaders swallowed by the mat.
Definitely not.
I'm sure the coaches will be taking a head count as soon as this procedure is over. And after that, we will have the awards. So a pregnant pause here as we handle our grounds crew work. And I can tell you definitively that it's a good thing that some of the teams are not being judged by their mat rolling capabilities, but rather their stunt, cheer, and dance capabilities. And then after that, we will have the announcement. Well, TJ, this is our first year of coverage of this particular event, and once the awards ceremony is announced and the teams have gotten their medals, we're going to shut it down here on PlayOnSports.com. There won't be a post-game show, so to speak, but we'll take this opportunity to, give us your thoughts on what happened today, what you saw, what you liked, and our first coverage here in the 5th running of this particular event in the San Francisco section.
I thought today went really well. The teams showed what they could do, and I feel like it was very energetic, and really fun to watch. Each routine had something special, and it was, I really enjoyed being here, and I'm glad that it can be up on YouTube and on the PlayOnSports.com.
Yeah, well, and on top of that, you've got schools like Marshall, who just got their uniforms this week, might have even been yesterday, and they're performing for the first time in school history. Then you've got other groups like Lincoln, who'd already qualified for nationals walking into this competition, and everything in between. And, you know, this is, as the event is ending, I can't recall, except maybe for wrestling, a time where I've seen all the teams at the end of the event or the game or the match all work together to put away the equipment. And in wrestling, probably it's just the home team doing it after the fact. You don't see the visiting baseball team grooming the infield afterward. It's only the home team. So in this competition, everybody gets their hands dirty and gets in there and does some work.
Teamwork, definitely important.
Well, we will have the results for you in just a moment, folks. Again, thanks for staying with us. Jeff Kurtz alongside TJ Rivera as we await the results of the competition. Well, while all the girls are working hard out there, I know I'm nervous for the results.
Yeah.
They've almost forgotten that there's going to be results after this as they're moving all the mats around. But here comes Section Commissioner Don Collins into the middle of the floor. And he's got the ribbons and the medals.
They're just waiting to be taken home.
I know, really. And so we wait for the cue from our PA announcer, Shauna Brewer, who's going to bring us the results as Dawn is trying to corral everybody and make sure we've got everything set up. Meanwhile, the celebration continues out on the floor for these teams. That almost a sense of relief, I see, TJ.
Yeah.
Like, wow, we did it. Phew. You know, all the adrenaline that goes into a competition. And then after you're done, and the relief.
Yeah, such a sigh of relief.
But so much hard work that goes into this as well. And obviously the season is not done for any of these young athletes, as they will continue to cheer for basketball and probably have already been doing so and will once you get into league play. And I don't know what you guys did at Concord. Did you do any cheering during spring sports?
Spring was mainly our competition season. We finished up basketball probably early spring
if you went that far in the playoffs. But then it was done after that, correct?
Yeah, and then it's just competitions until nationals, usually around March.
Well, they are clearing the floor here and getting ready for the awards presentations. And you can see the table moving to the left-hand side of your screen. That's Don Collins, the tall drink of water, who had his back to you a moment ago. And here come our judges. That's Deja Joe with the red hat on. Evan Pearson. And Carissa Garlick, who is standing to Joe's left, or our left, your left, Joe's right. Pearson closest to us. And all the fans have returned to their seats, and the cheerleaders were asked to do so as well, but there's so much nervous energy in the building now that the actual awards are going to be presented that some can't even sit down. A, there isn't room for some of them, and B, they're probably too anxious anyway.
See Lowell waiting very patiently.
Yeah, they are. They're actually doing the best in terms of sitting there patiently waiting, though.
Yeah.
You can see Burton to their right, our left. And some of the Burton girls are locking arms and almost like they're watching someone shoot a free throw for a game winner here, except it's instead, did we do enough to win? Again, stunt, Balboa, Lincoln, Burton, Lowell. Cheer, Balboa, Washington, Marshall, and Lincoln. And then dance, Mission, Lowell, Lincoln. ISA, Washington, Balboa, and Wallenberg. Lowell was your defending champion in stunt. Lincoln and cheer. Wallenberg and dance. We turn it over to Shauna Brewer, our PA announcer.
All right, starting with our stunt division in fourth place with 73.83 points. Give it up for the Balboa Buccaneers. In third place with a score of 81.17, give it up for the Burton Pumas. In second place with a total of 84.33 points and receiving silver medals, give it up for the Lowell Cardinals. Come on up to the table to receive your medals. Come on up to receive your silver medals. Go on up, Lowell. Receiving their medals, give it up for Alexandra Judson, Angelina Dignio, Clarissa Wong, Danae Kimball, Danielle Flores, Hina Iwata, Holly Reinhardt, Isabel Jusino, Joy Van Hassel, Kayla Jones, Catherine Bruckner, Kirsten Cooney, Nancy Lean, Natalie Perez, Nicole Jernan, Noelle Manley, Olivia Keynes, Suzanne Say, Whitney Zhang, and Zerania Busby. And give it up for their head coach, Jacob Flores, and assistant coach, Cindy Chan. And in first place, with a total points of 89.58, give it up for Lincoln. You guys will be receiving gold medals, so come on up to the table.
So Lincoln wins in the stunt competition. High scores.
Very high scores.
Especially
Much higher
compared
than
to last year. Yeah, I mean, 89.5 is your winner, and last year Lowell won it with 78.7. For Lincoln, this is their first championship in the stunt competition and the first school other than Balboa and Lowell to win a championship in stunt. But it's right like you called it, TJ, and that's also very impressive that you nailed it in terms of point totals. Lincoln won at 89.5, Lowell 2 with 84.3, Burton ecstatic with an 81.7 score. I think that exceeded their expectations.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Balboa finishes up with a 73.8. But if you base it off of last year's numbers, Balboa with their 73.8 would have ended up in second place, a mere 5 points behind Lowell. So certainly the quality certainly improved from 2011 to 2012.
Definitely.
Well,
Big change in points.
yeah, congratulations to Lincoln for winning, and you can see why this team is qualified for nationals, because they've got a good shot at going for a clean sweep. We'll find out the cheer results in just a moment, and you had scored it, TJ, if I recall correctly, Lincoln, Washington, Balboa, and Marshall in the cheer. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
All right, so far my broadcast partner is 1 for 1. And we'll see if she's 2 for 2. And if that's the case, she and I are heading to Reno after this, and she's going to throw it all on black. So, but meanwhile, Lincoln getting their first medal. If you get first place, you get gold. Second place gets silver. And now the photo, though this may not be the only photo that Lincoln is going to take.
All right, give it up one more time for the Lincoln Mustangs. And now we're going to be moving
Now we'll turn back to our PA announcer, Shauna Brewer, for the cheer results.
Exit the floor. Go ahead and exit the floor, guys. Nice job. All right, in our cheer division, in fourth place with a total of 66.83. Give it up for Marshall Phoenix. In third place with a total of 74.17. Give it up for the Washington Eagles. In second place with a total of 84.33 points and receiving silver medals. Give it up for the Balboa Buccaneers. From the Balboa Buccaneers, we have Andrea Landry, Ashley Nash, Ashley O'Brien, Janet Campos, Jennifer Wynn, Joanne Kwong, Karen Cruz, Natalia De La Rosa, Lydia Prudencio, Sabrina Glasgow, Cheyenne Anderson, Tiana Siwa, and Zena Galvez, and their head coach, Lucia Ramirez. Give it up one more time for the Balboa Buccaneers. And in first place in our cheer division with a total score of 86.17, give it up for the Lincoln Mustangs. You girls will be receiving gold medals, so come on over to the floor.
Well, as we anticipated, Lincoln was 2 for 2 now. 86.2, less than a 2-point win over Balboa in the cheer competition. And we actually had Washington as 2. Are you a little surprised by that result?
Yeah, a little bit surprised.
And it was it was about a 10-point difference.
Yeah,
that was
I
a
was just
significant
noticing that.
difference.
Big difference.
Well, Lincoln is 2 for 2. And they defend their title in cheer. They have won it now 4 of the 6 years of the competition. Lincoln and Balboa, the only schools to win. And, of course, they're 1-2 in this competition. They were 1-2 in last year's competition, though Balboa narrowed the gap to just less than 2 points. Last year they lost by 4.
Getting up there.
So they are pecking away, but coming up a little bit short, but a strong showing by Balboa, finishing second. And so that adds a little bit of tension to the dance results, because we had Balboa 1, Lowell 2, and Lincoln 3 in that. So we'll see what the result turns out to be. Lincoln right in front of us, getting the paparazzi treatment from their parents and photographers. Well, sometimes this is a bit of a struggle to get the champions in soccer or in water polo or in football to all take a picture, but when you're dealing with cheerleading, everyone's photogenic and everyone knows when to
Jump
smile.
at the opportunity.
You never have to worry about that. It's like they've been doing it all their life. So that's Lincoln winning in stunt and cheer, and now we go back to Shauna Brewer for the results from dance.
In 7th place with a total score of 71.5. Give it up for the Mission Bears. In 6th place with a score of 72.17. Give it up for the Wallenberg Bulldogs. In 5th place with a score of 77.3. Give it up for the Washington Eagles. In 4th place with a score of 79.5. Give it up for the ISA Cobras. In 3rd place with a score of 82.16. Give it up for the Lincoln Mustangs. In 2nd place with a score of 86.83 and receiving silver medals today, give it up for the Balboa Buccaneers. From the Buccaneers, we have Andrea Landry, Ashley Nash, Ashley O'Brien, Janet Campos, Jennifer Wynn, Joanne Kwong, Karen Cruz, Natalia De La Rosa, Nydia Prudencio, Sabrina Glasgow, Cheyenne Anderson, Tiana Sigua, and Zena Galvez. They're head coached by Lucia Ramirez. Give it up for the Balboa Buccaneers. And in 1st place in the dance category with a score of 89.83, receiving gold medals today, give it up for the Lowell Cardinals.
So Lowell comes away with a win, as Balboa is a bridesmaid in all 3 competitions, but not a bride. And so Lowell, who didn't compete last year and has never won a championship in dance, though they have won in stunt 3 of 5 years, they now have their first championship, displacing Wallenberg from last year. So the results are Lowell first, 89.8, Balboa second, 3 points behind, 86.8. 3rd place to Lincoln with 82.2, ISA 4th, 79.5. 5th is Washington with 77.3. 6th, Wallenberg, 72.2. And Mission 7th with 71.5. A little bit of a surprise here in our minds, isn't it?
Not what I expected, but
But, you know, you can make a strong argument. I mean, we had Lowell, Lincoln, and Balboa, you know, in those top 3 slots somewhere. Balboa, we had 1, Lowell 2, and you flip-flop them, and those are your results. So,
yeah, very true, very true.
And a 3-point difference. So your winners in stunt, cheer, and dance are Lincoln, and Lowell, and in 2nd place in all 3, Balboa. Well, excuse me, Balboa 2nd in cheer and dance, Lowell 2nd in stunt. So a strong showing for those schools. And congratulations to all the athletes here today. TJ, it's been quite a ride for these last 2.5 hours.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone here on our broadcast staff who made today's broadcast possible, and that includes our videographer, Hans Webb, our producer, Lee Craner, and for my broadcast partner making her debut performance here, not on the floor, but behind the microphone, TJ Rivera from San Francisco State, part of the cheerleading team for the Gators, and a former captain at Concord High School in East Bay. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Great insight provided, and I'm Jeff Kurtz saying so long from Burton High School. That concludes the fall season in the San Francisco section, but not on PlayOnSports.com. More football coverage tonight beginning at 7:30. 6 games for you to listen to and highlights to follow, and then the State Football Championships closes our fall season next week, the 14th and 15th. We are your destination for high school sports and section and state championships here in California. PlayOnSports.com. Good night, everybody.
One match away from immortality.